Hi everyone. I'm Margarita. This conference is called How to Fabricate Soul and Spirit. This is a really interesting conference that talks about the christic work of the three mountains, and the mountain of spiritual birth, the mountain of psychological death, and the mountain of sacrifice for mankind. And also is going to teach us the path, or the christic path, that we're gonna have to follow if we want to awaken the 100% of conscience in our soul. We don't have a human soul, we have an animal state. We are rational animals, and therefore we cannot have yet a human soul. What is our soul? We're going to take a look at what our soul is. Our soul is a group of virtues, powers, faculties, forces that we have in our inside. It's our essence, but is contaminated. The 97% of our essence is ego, is bottled up in the force, or the destructive force of our ego. Our objective is going to be release that force of the conscience that is inside of each one of us, and fix that essences in the spinal cord as we set free and awake our conscience. So we're gonna take a look at this image that is the man of Vitruvio in a pentacle. This represents our human soul, which we don't have yet, but we're gonna have to manufacture it by the use of our conscience, the comprehension of and elimination of the psychological flaws that we have inside ourselves. The 97% of our ego, that is innocence essence, is trapped, has our virtues, our faculties, our powers, and our strengths are trapped in those egos. Only by the conscious work of awakening the 3% of justice, wisdom, and love is the path that we are going to follow to ascend our fire, or kundalini, through our spinal cord. So, we have our virtues. The virtues of our human soul come from the comprehension and the elimination of our ego. So we're gonna take a look at our virtues. Our virtues right now are trapped in the 97%, which is our ego. The destructive force of our ego has us feeding the anger, the lust, the force of greed, the force of envy, the force of pride, and the 7 capital sins which we already know. So what happens when we've been putting in our psychological flaws? That energy is going to ascend through our spinal cord and awaken our serpent kundalini, and our virtues, or the virtues in our human soul, are going to be born from that fire. So we're going to transform treason into fidelity. Being dishonest, we are going to comprehend the reason why we're being dishonest, and transforming into honesty. Once we get to understand why our psyche is like that, we have to take light out of darkness, because our essence at the start was really innocent. It let itself trapped into the different psychological flaws to understand, or to take out wisdom from evil, to take light out of darkness. In order to understand what is patience, we have to get angry. We have to know what is anger. In order to know what is chastity, first we had to experience what was lost. So We are going to turn those egos into the virtues of our human soul, that is the psychological material or our psyche that we are going to rescue from our seminal rat. Our powers. As the Kundalini rises through our spinal cord, creating each one of the superior existential bodies of our being, we're going to start receiving some powers. For example, I'm gonna skip this for a second. With the physical body, the person who gets to regenerate the physical body is going to have the power of the earth because he has managed to obtain the chastity. So the serpent kundalini will start rising through the spinal cord, giving the person powers to create a communication with the elementals of the earth that are the gnomes and the pygmies of the earth. When he regenerates the vital body, which are the waters of the microcosmos, he's going to be able to talk to the elementals or the souls of the element of water that are the undines and nereids of water. When he manages to create what is the astral body, he will have the power of astral projection, projecting everywhere, other galaxies, other universes to different parts of the planet, and managing and having the power to travel in the fifth dimension whenever he wants. He also will have the power to communicate with the elementals or souls of the fire that are the salamanders of fire. With the mental body, he will have the power to communicate with the souls of the element air that are the sylphs and sylphids of the air. He will also have the power to do the mental projection anytime he or she wants. And when he creates the causal body of will, he will be able to talk to all the elementals of nature, minerals, the elementals of the vegetables and the animals. He will have the power to unite with the power of nature and talking to all the spirits or the beings that are in our nature and creating himself or regenerating himself as well. So we're gonna now talk about the faculties. What kind of faculties we will develop when we get to have a human soul or to create these existential bodies for our being. When we have these existential bodies, solar existential bodies of our being, we will have some faculties that are proper to our human soul, which we don't have yet, but we will experience them when we regenerate and create these bodies. So these faculties are the faculties of clairvoyance, that is the faculty of seeing in different dimensions of nature, taking a look at this third dimension. You don't get to see the larvae that are in the environment, the past, the present, or the future in people's destiny, but someone with clairvoyance could do that. Someone that has the faculty of polyvoyance is going to be able of taking a look at all the points of view of different beings in the universe. And someone, for example, that has the clairaudience, that is the power of hearing everything in this universe, all the voices of the elementals of nature, all the voices of all the beings in the planet and the universe, the magic ear, that is to hear the thoughts of anyone's thoughts, the telepathy, that is know what someone is thinking, what someone is planning to do, um, where is someone located, the telemetry, the power of having the measurement of distances and time, the intuition that is a power that is only able to be taken by the conscience, is a power of communicating from the heart with our being without thinking, just knowing what our being wants, and communicating with all the elementals of nature. And what are the forces that we're gonna get when we have our human soul? The forces are doing what 1,000 men together could do. We will have the force to do anything we want in life. For I don't know if you have heard the Sisyphus myth, that he was able to pull a rock over his back. Well, we will have this strength and more, because we will have the strength to dominate nature, all the elements: fire, water, air, um, fire, water, earth, air, and ether, that is represented in the causal body, all the elements of nature. So a person that has the power to dominate his microcosmos also can dominate the macrocosmos, and has the force of doing anything he wants, creating and destroying, as a god will do, because he has eliminated the destructive force within his microcosmos. So this force, for example, if you invested your force in feeding the ego of being drunk, you had the force of not sleeping for several nights just to get drunk. Well, if you eliminate the ego of alcoholism, you could have the force of being awake for nights, just meditating or just helping others, and awakening more conscience within yourself. So we all have the force of a god, just creating and destroying universes. That is what you're going to get when you have your human soul. So how are we gonna manage to start creating that soul? First of all, we're gonna have to manage to have the power of the psychological death, is saving energy, balancing our centers, and releasing the conscience that is trapped in each psychological defect. For example, if we have the psychological flaw of anger, we get angry with each silly detail that happens. You get angry because the soup is hot. You get angry because your car doesn't work. You get angry because there is a traffic stuck. When each time that you feel angry, you're going to experience the release of conscience when you uh, call or you summon the force of your divine mother, that represents the force of love. And as you know, the force of love can disintegrate all the evil that is trapped in your conscience. So you're going to summon that force to help you eliminate the force of ego. Divine mother, eliminate me this anger. For example, if you're angry because the traffic is too heavy and you cannot get to work, Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego that wants to shout to other people, hey, move on, I want to pass, I want to get to work and cannot be late. So if you discover that you have impatience, that you are not patient at all, that you want to just start your car and pass anywhere, you just summon the force of love and you disintegrate that ego and experience the liberation of your soul. Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego of impatience that wants to get over the road and cross anywhere that is not allowed. So there are many egos that are going to get out when you're in a circumstance that you cannot tolerate something. You need to develop the force of love that is in your psyche, the force of patience, the force of understanding. So that's what you're going to do in the psychological depth. You're going to rescue your virtues, and that fire that you rescue that was trapped in those defects, in those psychological flaws, are the fire of your kundalini. The kundalini is a serpent that is coiled up in your coccyx, in the coccyx bone. That serpent is going to be awakened by the practice of the spiritual birth, which is a practice that you're going to do with the partner of your opposite sex. Men and women have the sacred fire or the electromagnetism that can lighten up the fire of the kundalini. And that kundalini is made up of the virtues that we have in our soul. So the spiritual birth, we are going to create our existential bodies for our being with the union between the man and the woman, using wisely our creative sexual energy. That means we are not going to search for pleasure, desire from the moment. We're just gonna use the concentration force, the imagination force to ascend the Kundalini fire in a sexual practice in which we are going to imagine the fire ascending by our spinal cord until it gets into the pineal gland in the middle of our eyebrows. And so the practice, we are going to explain it in another conference, a little bit more detailed, but what I can say to you is that a sexual practice in which we don't search for fornication, ejaculation, or expelling of the sexual energy from our body, but we are going to ascend the sexual energy all along our spinal cord until it gets in the superior centers of the body. That is awakening our third eye. The third eye is the pineal gland that is in the middle of our eyebrows. So the process consists in the union between a man and a woman. It has to be of the opposite sex because it's the energy of the man is an electric energy, while the energy of a woman is an magnetic energy. So we need the electromagnetic energy working in order to create. So the practice also consists in the inhalation of the air, retention, and exhalation with a mantra. That is the mantra of the I, A, and O. And we are going to explain more about it in another conference, but what I can say to you is that it's a practice in which we are going to awaken the force of love and create our soul, not creating more psychological flaws. And that is the process of fornication or infrasex. This is suprasex, the spiritual birth. And sacrifice for mankind is awakening the merits of our heart or the true love in an interested actions of sharing this knowledge, this pure knowledge with which is going to allow us to create our spirit and our soul. Is something really sacred which only few people have the chance to know, but is going to allow us to really detach ourselves from our ego and commit to the transcendental force of integrating with our being. So the steps for creating our human soul. First of all, the person is going to receive objective knowledge. Why do we call it the objective knowledge? Because it's the only knowledge in the world which is going to teach us how to create our soul and our spirit. There are many knowledge in the world which are teaching us something external, like how to get rich, how to have properties, how to have degrees, how to graduate ourselves from the university, specialize, different external things that are going to pass away with time. But the transcendental objective in life is to integrate ourselves with our being that is in the stars. People that know how to kill the ego are not gonna die, but are going to awaken the 100% of conscience, self-realize the force of the being, and integrating with the divinal part or the divinal energy that we have in ourselves, but is in the stars. We have to come back to our being with 100% of conscience awakened. So the next step is just practicing the three processes that we've been explaining: the psychological death, the spiritual birth, and the sacrifice for mankind. Fighting against your seven inverted virtues to experience the real virtues, the real fire kundalini ascending, the ego that you kill in psychological death. We have a head here that represents the ability that you have to disintegrate your ego. Each ego represents a portion of your conscience that is trapped, and it manifests as if it was another person talking inside of you. We have many people inside of us because our conscience is not integrated. Our seminal envelope is really contaminated. Once we get to integrate the forces, the egoic forces that are disseminated, which are represented as many persons in yourself. For example, inside yourself, you have an angry person. At the next moment, you have a really sweet person. And in the next moment, you have a really envious person. And you're not unique. You're not truthful. So once you get to eliminate your envy, your anger, your jealousness, your greed, you're going to experience the totalized energy of love that your being has inside of itself. And that energy, the energy of true love and wisdom, is going to ascend through your spinal cord once you connect with your real partner. And this knowledge it can also have the power of giving you love for mankind. Once you receive love from mankind, helping others, you can move forward and pay the karma of your different egos. Once you kill an ego, you have to pay the karma that this ego has for debt. The next step in creating your soul is balancing your centers. How are you going to balance your centers? Well, working in the psychological depth, examining yourself, self-observing your behavior, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, the way you talk. For example, we're gonna put a situation. For example, you're thinking about purchasing a really expensive car. You want a really expensive car because you feel that you're not important for anybody. You feel you need to get important by having an expensive car which you can show to people so that they see that you are successful, that they see that you have achieved the goal in life. So the action that you're going to think about doing is, oh, I'm going to get there and purchase the car that I want. And for example, you're talking all the time of which car should I get? Should I purchase the Lamborghini? Should I purchase the Mercedes? What is the best for me? What is going to get people talking about me? So in that moment, you're going to self-observe yourself. Is that right what I'm thinking? Am I going to get more important because I have a car, an expensive car? Is is it right what I'm feeling? Am I gonna feel better because people say that I'm successful because I have a car? In the actions, for example, is this actions conscience of or is the force of my ego? For example, going to the store and purchasing, am I going to get happier because of that? Uh, and my words is talking about this and desiring this all the time and telling people, oh, this car, or is that using my energy conscious in a conscious way? Supposing this situation, we are going to examine that. For example, if I'm observing myself um, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to get this car because I want to get important for people. So I study myself and I see that is the force of pride, that is the force of greed, that is the force of personality. So I identify the ego and I understand, oh, I want to purchase this car. I have greed because I have pride. I want to show myself that I'm better than others. So I once I discovered that is the energy of pride. I tell my Divine Mother, or the force of love, Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego of pride, and that energy is going to get me balanced, saving my energy, thinking according to my conscience, feeling according to my conscience, talking according to my conscience, and acting according to what is my 3% of conscience, justice, wisdom, and love, and achieving a spiritual and transcendental purpose, because the car is going to pass away and nothing will remain. I didn't come to this planet with a car, and I'm not better for having it than other people. Okay, now the next step is having a partner that is willing to collaborate us with the process of the sexual birth, of the sexual transmutation, that is willing to save the energy, that has the value of the sexual creative energy in order that we can use the suprasex to create ourselves the superior existential bodies for our being with the energy that we have liberated from here. We, we have our 7 centers of the human machine are really balanced. We are saving energy, and if we are saving this energy, we are not talking garbage. We're not feeling sadness, despair. That is not taking us our energy. We are not acting according to the ego, so we are saving that conscious energy. That is the energy that is going to ascend through our spinal cord and awaken the force of the mother Kundalini. And once we get to stabilize ourselves with our partner, we are going to start working in the process of suprasex, and we're going to perfection it with time. We're going to turn up the waters or ascend our waters, achieving the chastity, or not spilling our sexual energy, not fornicating, and at last, when we achieve the chastity totally, we're going to receive in our inner worlds, that means in a conscious astral projection, we are going to see ourselves with a silver sword in our hand that represents that we have already lightened the fire. What is to lighten the fire? We have our serpent Kundalini coiled up in our coccyx bone, but the Kundalini is asleep. We have to awaken the serpent Kundalini with the purity and energy of our sexual practices. Once we have the purity necessary for the energy to ascend, because we have worked here a lot, that is what is going to lighten up our sexual fire and awaken the serpent Kundalini. Once the serpent is awakened, we're going to start creating the existential bodies for our being. We're going to start with the regeneration of the physical body, first of all, then the regeneration of our vital body, the creation of the astral body, the creation of the mental body, and at this moment we are going to be creating the causal body. But at the beginning of the causal body, there is a test for us between us and Lucifer. What does Lucifer means? Lucifer is not what you commonly think that is the devil. No, Lucifer is our psychological trainer. Luz means light and fer means fire. So it's the light of wisdom and is the fire of love that we have to rescue when we beat our psychological trainer. In this moment, there is a test that is the direct path, choosing between the direct path in which, the direct path is going to get us to connect with our being, but the path of the nirvana here is a spiral. The path of the nirvana is going to leave us with all these powers, faculties, and virtues, but we are not going to kill the ego radically. We're not going to kill the 7 causal egos that are in the infradimensions of the planet Earth. We're just going to remain with all the powers, and we're going to have a lot of life, a lot of pleasures, but we are not going to self-realize our being and uniting with our inner Christ. That is a test that our being puts us, so we know if we are going to finally obey to our pleasures, our desires, our temptations, or we are gonna resist and we are gonna finally integrate with the supreme force of love with our being that is in the third eye. So if we choose the direct path, we are going to finish the causal body and achieve the sacred marriage between our divine soul and our human soul. At this point, we already have the human soul. If we follow the direct path, we can unite with the divine soul that is here in the superior centers of our human machine. So if we choose the direct path, we're going to keep connecting with the Buddhic body and connecting with the Atmic body. The Buddhic body represents the force of our Divine Mother or love, and the Atmic body represents the force of our being that is in the Buddhic body is in the pituitary gland, and the Atmic body is in the pineal gland. Those are the superior centers. Each initiation, as you can see, begins in the middle of the 2 centers and ends in the middle of the 2 centers. And the sword, the size of the sword, represents the height of the Kundalini fire in our spinal cord. So as we regenerate and create our existential bodies, the sword is going to get bigger and longer until we have the longest sword that represents that we are 100% conscious and we're capable of killing our egos, our 7 causal egos with our sword. So how to fabricate the spirit? As I've been telling you in the last image, once we connect with the Buddhic and Atmic body, we are going to fabricate the spirit. Buddhi represents our divine soul that is in the stars. Manas represents our human soul. Once we create our human soul and unite with our divine soul, a third force is going to appear here, and it's the force of Atman, that is the spirit. That this is the second triad that represents the second mountain. In the second mountain, we are going to lighten up with the Kundalini fire the 7 churches in our vertebrae, spinal cord. Sorry. And we are gonna also be creating the golden bodies. We already created the solar bodies in our human soul. We created our solar bodies, but once we unite with our divine soul, we are going to be creating the golden bodies in the second mountain. So the most common questions are these. How long does it take to create a body? Well, once we balance the centers, the 5 centers of the human machine, the lower centers, as you saw in the quaternary, with the right thinking, the right feeling, the right actions, and the right thoughts, we're going to save our energy in everyday life. We're going to be applying the psychological depth for our sexual transmutation. We have the essences that are going to lighten up the fire of the Kundalini. So that is how we're going to create our bodies. How long? Approximately 2.5 years when a person is working seriously. Our soul is going, by the other hand, to take us for approximately 13 years to fabricate it. So, how do we know that the work has already started? When we achieve chastity, chastity means not fornicating, not spelling our sexual energy in the ejaculation or the orgasm. Once we achieve chastity and kill our ego of fornication, and also psychological chastity, that is what we call the scientific chastity, that we're not gonna waste our energy in our mind, our mental energy, our emotional energy. Once we achieve that chastity and eliminate the ego of fornication, we are going to get the work started. We are going to receive a silver sword, as you saw, with white hilt. And each fornication is important to have into account that you're going to lose 2 vertebrae. So you're going to slow up the process of awakening the Kundalini if you have a sexual fall. So is it possible to create bodies without a partner? No, it's not possible. We need the positive magnetic energy of the woman and the negative electric energy of the man. If we don't have the two electromagnetic poles working, it's not possible to awaken the serpent Kundalini and to create the existential bodies for our being. So it's important to also love the sexual practice, get serious, have a continuity of purpose, because it's not that we are going to create the existential bodies for our being just doing the sexual transmutation once a month. No, it's a daily process. Each 20 hours you should do it if you are willing and you have the energy to do it. But you're going to have the energy once you achieve the psychological depth. Is it possible to create the soul being castrated? It's not possible. We need to have our sexual glands in perfect condition for the sexual practice. Castration also is a crime against the Holy Spirit. We cannot create life without our sexual energy, and the place when our sexual cells are manufactured are our sexual organs. We need to have our sexual organs in perfect condition in order to have the energy and the sexual energy working and ascending through our spinal cord. If you are not if you have done procedures in your body, you need to regenerate yourself or undo the procedure, undo the castration in order to start working in the sex. How much time does it take for the second mountain to be done? So, well, our being is going to give us 1,000 years with the same physical body to achieve it. But if you're working hard, you can do it within 20 years. Why is it that 1,000 people that seek the secret path, just one can find it? Because of karma. Many people had this knowledge in a past life, but they abandoned it. They betrayed the Divine Mother. They committed crimes against the Holy Spirit. Some seekers that want to transcend, they don't know what they are searching for. They lost the right to receive this knowledge, this sacred knowledge for different existences. So why is it that of 1,000 people that find it, just one person follows it? Because a strange force, the secret enemy's forces, doesn't allow us to start the work. You feel just satisfied by assisting the conferences. You feel like you are moving forward, just talking about awakening the conscience, just yes, doing the minimum that you can. You don't seriously quit your old habits. You don't seriously quit the personality or quit feeding your egos. You just comfort yourself in thinking that everything will be better because you already have this knowledge. So you don't start working seriously. You just remain lazy, doing nothing, and don't profit the time you have to work. You don't apply psychological death. You don't do the sexual transmutation. You say, no, I don't have the merits to have a partner, and you don't commit to this work fully so that you can have the elements that you need to start working. So it's really the force of our secret enemy, that is an atom that we have in our coccyx bone. That is the atom of the entropy. The entropy is the force of igualation. I don't know if you can say that well. That you are tend to be the same as all the people that surround you. The force of personality, the force of identification. For example, someone starts criticizing people next to you, and you just fall into temptation and start criticizing people as well, instead of remaining self-observing to your inner cosmos, to your egos that want to talk, that want to keep following that behavior. So you don't rescue the fire from your psychological flaws, but you keep feeding them. So that makes it difficult a little bit. So only just one person really follows it. Why is it that 1,000 people that follow the secret path just one achieve the self-realization? Because out of 999 people that commit to this job and start creating the existential bodies for the being and start having a principle of human soul, they end up giving up and choosing the path of the nirvana. Why they choose us? Because they have fear. They are afraid of paying the karma of the last 7 existences, which is the karma duro. Karma duro is the karma that you owe for the crimes against the Holy Spirit, which is the karma of the ego of fornication. Any time that you have spilled your sexual energy out of the temple, um, did did things to feed the pleasure and not to awaken the conscience, you have to pay for that. So it's going to be paid only with pain. So that is going to be a force that distracts you from the direct path and makes you choose the nirvana. So, okay, that is the conference of how to manufacture the soul and the spirit. If you have a question about it, I'm willing to hear it, to answer it. Thank you very much for hearing and have a good afternoon. And I hope to see you later in the next conferences. Bye.